3 girls, 3 names, 3 places. Each body found miles apart. Each location matching the initials of the child who died there. At first glance, it looks deliberate, almost theatrical. But the most unsettling question is not who did this. It is whether that pattern was ever real, or whether it was something we invented after the fact to make chaos feel ordered. Because once you believe the pattern exists, everything else begins to bend around it. Rochester, New York, in the early 1970s, was a city caught between stability and fracture. For decades, it had been defined by industrial certainty, large employers, predictable routines, and neighborhoods structured around work, school, and church. But beneath that surface, long-standing pressures were building. Economic stratification, racial inequality, and distrust between communities and law enforcement had not disappeared after the turbulence of the 1960s. They had simply quieted, unresolved. The city still remembered the unrest of 1964. That memory mattered, because when fear returns to a place already carrying unresolved tension, it spreads faster, embeds deeper, and demands explanation. In the early 1970s, children moved through cities differently than they do now, running errands alone, walking to neighborhood stores, returning home from school without supervision. These routines were normal. They were considered safe, and that assumption is critical, because all 3 cases that would later be grouped together began with an ordinary task that no one thought twice about. On November 16, 1971, 10-year-old Carmen Colon left her home to run a small errand. It was the kind of trip children in Rochester made every day. She never returned. Search efforts began quickly. Her disappearance did not initially feel like a crime. Children got lost. Children missed buses. But as hours passed, concern shifted into alarm. Carmen's body was later discovered in the town of Riga, outside Rochester. She had been sexually assaulted. She had been strangled. At the time, investigators treated the case as a singular tragedy, a horrific crime, but not yet part of anything larger. There was no expectation of repetition. What followed would change that assumption. On April 2, 1973, 11-year-old Wanda Volkovich left her home to go to the store for her mother. Witnesses later confirmed she was seen walking back toward her house. She never made it. By the next morning, her body was found near a rest area off Route 104 in Webster, New York. Like Carmen, Wanda had been sexually assaulted. Like Carmen, she had been strangled. Only now, something else caught attention. Not evidence, not forensic detail, but coincidence. Carmen Colon, found in Riga. Wanda Volkovich, found in Webster. 2 children, 2 matching initials, 2 locations beginning with the same letter. At first, it felt uncomfortable to even mention it. Investigators are trained to resist patterns that feel too neat. But the public noticed, and once the idea surfaced, it refused to disappear. Then, in November of 1973, 11-year-old Michelle Maenza disappeared after school. She had gone out into her neighborhood, a routine movement that should have been safe. 2 days later, her body was found in the town of Macedon, New York. She had been sexually assaulted. She had been strangled. Carmen Colon, Riga. Wanda Volkovich, Webster. Michelle Maenza, Macedon. The pattern now appeared complete, and once complete, it became the center of gravity for everything that followed. The media gave it a name, the alphabet murders, sometimes called the double initial murders. A label may seem harmless, but labels shape investigation. They tell the public what to look for. They tell investigators what matters. The assumption quietly shifted. If there is a pattern, there must be intent. If there is intent, there must be a single mind behind it. But law enforcement never officially confirmed that connection. privately and publicly, investigators cautioned that the similarities might be coincidental. The crimes were never legally classified as a serial case. This contradiction became permanent. In the public imagination, the murders were linked forever. In official records, they remained separate, unresolved cases. The investigations themselves were shaped by the era. There were no centralized databases, no rapid DNA analysis, no national system for linking child abductions across jurisdictions. Witness accounts were fragile. Physical evidence degraded quickly. Tips poured in, many contradictory, many impossible to verify. As years passed, suspects emerged in public discourse, not because of evidence, but because of narrative fit. Names like Kenneth Bianchi surfaced due to proximity and later crimes. Others pointed to Joseph Naso because of similar initials in unrelated cases decades later. Yet each time, the same conclusion followed. No forensic link, no charge, no resolution. This is where the alphabet murders become something more unsettling than an unsolved crime. They become a case study in how humans impose order on horror. If the pattern was intentional, then the killer was taunting society. If it was coincidence, then the danger is far worse. Because it means 3 children were murdered independently, and we may have misunderstood all of it. The consequences extended beyond the investigation. Parents stopped sending children on errands. Communities withdrew inward. Fear became structural. And yet, despite decades passing, none of the core questions have been answered. Was there one offender, or several? Was the alphabet pattern real, or retrofitted? Did focusing on the pattern blind investigators to other leads? What remains are 3 names, 3 families, and a city still carrying a question it cannot resolve. The alphabet murders are not just remembered because they are unsolved. They are remembered because they force us to confront something uncomfortable. Sometimes, the pattern we fear most is not created by the killer, but by our need to believe that chaos follows rules. And until that distinction is finally proven, the case remains open, not just in records, but in the collective memory of a city that learned how fragile certainty can be.